Thank you so much, Femi, and to the panelists for that absolutely fascinating discussion. To follow that up, we are incredibly lucky to have with us the director of the EU Agency for Fundamental Rights. Please give a warm welcome to Sirpa Rautio. And I have this microphone prepared for you. It should magically work.
Can you reset that for me?
So, Sirpa, we've just heard from the panelists speaking about some of the geopolitical challenges that we're facing in the world, for example, women and girls fleeing from Europe. So my question to you is, what do you see as the broader fundamental rights challenges in the European Union resulting from such geopolitical complexities?
Thank you very much. First of all, I would like to really thank the previous panelists. It was fantastic, really, really interesting, insightful. And also it showed to me that gender equality, human rights, both as disciplines, but also the challenges are interchangeable. You were saying almost everything that I had planned to say. But I will focus more on well, it's almost recapping some of the conversations. Obviously, one cannot talk about human rights without thinking of the conflicts that we are now seeing. And it was very wise to focus on Ukraine. I'm from Finland, so obviously, I'm particularly worried about the eastern border and Russian different types of influences. But of course, the influence is much deeper. It's not just the eastern border area or the border countries. We've seen a huge securitization of the discussion, but also measures, priorities, funding. I think this is one of my concerns. I just came back from Kiev on Saturday night, spent a couple of days there, and it's amazing to me that I have to go to Kiev to talk about human rights or hear about fundamental rights, human rights from highest levels. Everybody talks about fundamental rights, human rights, their importance, of course also other things. So why aren't we able to talk about fundamental rights, human rights compliant security measures? That puzzles me and worries me. I see that in my own country very strongly, but I think it's spreading beyond those countries that are sort of more at the front line in Europe.
Absolutely, thank you so much for that. Now, your agency recently joined forces with Eurostat and IGA to release this huge survey results for gender-based violence, and there was over 115,000 respondents. So my question to you is, what would you like to see happen now, particularly regarding EU member state cooperation?
Yes, it was quite an undertaking, and Carleen, sitting here, was very much involved. It was the first time that we did something with the Eurostat. So the first thing I would like to say is that this statistics, this information which was collected in interviews, it has now sort of stamp of approval of the Eurostat. And I think it's helping us because there's a lot of questioning of the value of this kind of information. It's almost like experiences of women or others that we interview for other groups wouldn't matter. So I see a sort of attempt to push back and say, it's just, hearsay, it doesn't really matter. So I think first thing is that we have to defend, the value and validity of this research. This is also being questioned. So once we go to the national level, because we only publish now sort of the Euro averages, we will follow up together with IGE, with the member states, that starting from those that we did, because Eurostat did majority, I think 18, 19, we did 8. So of course we already have those contacts. You have to discuss the situation on gender-based violence at the national level, because it's difficult to compare. If I look at Nordic countries, Eastern, Central European, there is almost a paradox. More gender equality, more women come forward with experience about gender-based violence or harassment. So I think we need to not to compare or try to compare, because this is also leading to the questioning, but really zoom in at the member state level and with partners at the national level, see how can we use this data. It's like a warning shot. It's a call for action. But of course, much more has to follow, and we will be working with member states, governments, civil society, independent institutions to see what has to be done to change this.
Fantastic, thank you so much. And the final question that I'm going to ask Sirpa, because I know your time is very valuable, is what other challenges do you see in the EU as human rights challenges, including, for example, fighting for gender equality, fighting for human rights, or fighting for equality on the ground?
Yeah, quite a few challenges.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's not the best of times. But I would start from the positive. I mean, we do have a framework. We have the human rights treaties, that binding on EU. We have the Fundamental Rights Charter. You cannot negate those without leaving the EU. So because there's a lot of talk about leaving different human rights treaties. With the EU, you have to comply with the Charter, EU institutions, but also member states. So this is good. We have tools. I really liked what you said, that we need to push back. I think we need to also learn how to push back. I'm not sure that I'm totally equipped to deal with the kind of challenges and attacks that we are facing. I was fairly recently at the European Parliament, and the first time is really rattling. Second time you of course already know a little bit better. So I think we need to not only push back, but to know how to do it, and of course have broad allies and good narrative. Disinformation, misinformation, very strong challenge. It's mind-boggling what kind of things are being said these days without much questioning. The other one is hate speech, hate crimes, and polarization. These are all areas, by the way, where FRA is working. We are collecting data. The difficulty is also the need to respond in real time. But when you try to be evidence-based, it takes time to get evidence. So I wish I could say already what we are learning from the from the Ukrainian women that that we are interviewing. But we try to collect evidence and analyze and then come out. But it sometimes seems that it's just way too slow to what is happening out there. I already mentioned securitization. We see now Polish presidency. It's all about security. Look at the political agenda, very much security. Here I have to be clear, I do consider many security measures totally legitimate and necessary, but the problem is that it becomes very one-sided, that then you only think about security at the cost of sort of the human security and other aspects. So those would be some of the main concerns, very similar to the gender equality.
Thank you so much. It's absolutely fascinating. And I'd finally like to say thank you so much for your collaboration with IGA. Thank you for your presence at this forum, and thank you for the very important work that you do. Round of applause for
Thank you
Sirpa.
very much.
I think it's remarkable that we're able to have people like Sirpa come here, and it's remarkable that this forum is taking place. I know I keep mentioning it, but we do need to remember just how special this is. And whilst the conference has been going on, we have also had Sophie Lang working away here in the corner on her fantastic illustration and her piece of art. So I was wondering if we could see that on the screen. And we can see there Sophie working very hard with the illustration, and we can see the labels going into the bin, equality 24/7. So if there's anything that you want to see Sophie adding to that, you can go talk to her. Please do go take a closer look at it. It's absolutely fantastic, and we're very lucky to have her here also. And I believe it is now time for the coffee break. Thank you so much.